Silence doesn't scare you because it's empty. It scares you because it's undefined. Before you tell yourself you just hate awkwardness, do the ritual, like the video, subscribe, comment something like, "Wow, okay." Share it with someone who fills every pause like it's a medical emergency. There. Now let's talk about what silence actually does to you. Silence removes feedback. No tone, no reassurance, no cues, no confirmation that everything is fine. And your nervous system doesn't interpret that as neutral. It interprets it as danger. Because at some point in your life, silence stopped being nothing. It became something. It meant someone was upset, or withdrawing, or disappointed, or emotionally gone. It meant tension, or punishment, or abandonment, or the calm before consequences. So now, when things go quiet, your body reacts before your mind has a chance to intervene. Your chest tightens, your thoughts accelerate, your attention sharpens, not because anything bad is happening, but because something bad once happened in silence. You learn that silence was information, and usually not good information. So your brain scans immediately. What did I do? What did I say? What did I miss? What changed? Is this my fault? Is this the part where it ends? That interrogation doesn't feel optional. It feels automatic, because silence gives your mind too much room, and your mind fills that room with memory. You don't wait for evidence. You generate explanations, and the explanations are rarely generous, because when silence hurt you before, you learned that assuming the worst was safer than being blindsided. So now you preemptively panic. Not loudly, internally, efficiently. You replay conversations. You reanalyze tone. You search for mistakes that might justify the quiet. You're not dramatic. You're vigilant, and vigilance is exhausting. Silence feels like standing in a room with the lights off, knowing something might be there, but not knowing what. So you turn the lights on. You talk, you text. You check in, you clarify, you over-explain. You apologize for things no one accused you of. You create noise, not because you like noise, but because noise restores orientation. Noise gives you feedback. It tells you where you stand. It tells you whether you're okay. Silence leaves that unanswered, and unanswered questions are intolerable. When uncertainty once cost you something, here's the part that matters. You didn't become afraid of silence because you're insecure. You became afraid of silence because silence was once weaponized. Someone went quiet instead of communicating. Someone withdrew instead of explaining. Someone punished you with absence. Someone made you guess. And guessing became survival. You learned that connection required maintenance. That if you weren't engaging, checking in, monitoring, and adjusting, something bad would happen. So now you stay active. You don't let conversations end naturally. You don't let space breathe. You don't let pauses exist. You rush to fill them. Not because you're needy, but because stillness feels like risk. Silence feels like being left alone with uncertainty. And uncertainty triggers alertness. Your body doesn't hear silence. It hears threat. That's why your heart rate changes. That's why your stomach drops. That's why your thoughts spiral. It's not intuition. It's conditioning. And here's something important. Your panic in silence is not about the present moment. It's about memory. You're reacting to what silence meant then, not what it means now. But your nervous system doesn't differentiate. It generalizes. So every quiet moment feels like a test, and you feel responsible for passing it. You think, if I just say the right thing, if I just explain better, if I just check in one more time, I can prevent whatever's coming. That belief kept you safe once. Now it keeps you exhausted. Because silence is not something you can control, and control is what you're trying to restore. When someone else goes quiet, you lose influence. You can't read them. You can't adjust. You can't preempt. You can't manage the outcome. So you panic, because you learn that safety came from managing connection. Silence removes your tools, and without tools, you feel exposed. You also use noise to avoid yourself. This part is uncomfortable, so let's not rush it. Silence doesn't just remove external feedback, it removes distraction. And when things go quiet, you're left with whatever hasn't been resolved inside you. loneliness, grief, regret, anger, longing, unmet needs. Silence doesn't create those. It reveals them. So part of your panic isn't about other people at all. It's about what shows up when there's nothing to drown it out. Music, podcasts, scrolling, talking, multitasking, you fill the space relentlessly. Because quiet makes you aware. And awareness brings feelings you've been postponing. You've learned to stay occupied, useful, engaged, not because you're productive, but because stillness feels unsafe. Stillness feels like falling behind, like losing relevance, like being forgotten. So you stay audible. You also learned that being quiet made you invisible. That if you didn't speak, you didn't exist. That if you didn't perform presence, you were overlooked. So silence feels like erasure. When no one responds, no one reacts, no one engages, your sense of self wobbles. Am I still here? Do I matter? Did I disappear? That's not attention seeking. That's attachment. Your nervous system learned that connection had to be maintained actively, so you maintain it, constantly, exhaustingly. And when silence happens anyway, you blame yourself. You assume you failed. You assume you missed something. You assume you should have done more. Because blaming yourself gives you something to fix. Uncertainty doesn't. So you choose guilt over ambiguity. Guilt feels actionable. Ambiguity feels endless. Here's another layer people rarely talk about. Silence threatens your identity. When there's no reaction, no feedback, no response, you don't know who you're being. You've built yourself around responsiveness, around attunement, around reading the room. Silence removes the room. So who are you then? Without someone to react to you, without something to adjust to, without a signal to respond to, you feel unanchored. That's why silence can feel like free fall. You're not afraid of quiet. You're afraid of being unmirrored, because mirroring once kept you oriented, and without it, you feel untethered. This is why silence in relationships hits hardest. Not because you need constant contact, but because contact confirms safety. Silence removes confirmation, and in that absence, your nervous system assumes the worst, because that's what it learned to do. Let's talk about how this shows up in real life. Someone doesn't text back, your mind fills the gap. They're upset, they're losing interest, they're pulling away, they're done. Someone goes quiet in a conversation. You rush to fill it. You explain more, you soften, you joke, you apologize. Not because silence is bad, but because silence feels like disapproval. Someone needs space. You feel rejected. Not because space is rejection, but because space once preceded loss. So you cling, or overfunction, or retreat preemptively. Silence activates abandonment alarms, even when no abandonment is happening. And the cruel part? The more you panic in silence, the harder silence becomes to tolerate. You train yourself to associate quiet with distress, so your threshold shrinks. What once felt neutral now feels unbearable. You're not broken, you're sensitized. And here's the thing you might not want to hear. Silence is not something you need to eliminate. It's something your nervous system needs to relearn. But relearning doesn't happen through force. It happens through understanding. Understanding that silence is not a verdict. It's not a punishment. It's not a sign, it's just a lack of information. And your panic is not intuition, it's history. You're reacting to old meanings attached to quiet. You're hearing echoes, and until that distinction becomes clear, silence will keep feeling like something you need to outrun. You don't need to become comfortable with silence overnight. You don't need to love it. You don't need to seek it. You just need to stop letting it testify against you. Because right now, every quiet moment is being put on trial in your head. And silence keeps getting convicted of crimes it didn't commit. This isn't about becoming calm. It's about becoming accurate. Accurate about what's happening now versus what happened then. Accurate about where the fear comes from. Because once you see that your panic is memory-based, not reality-based, the grip loosens. Not immediately, not magically, but enough to pause. Enough to not react instantly, enough to let silence exist without narrating it. And that pause, that fraction of space, is where the panic starts to lose authority. Silence doesn't mean you're losing something. It means nothing is happening yet, and yet is not an emergency. You don't need to fix silence. You don't need to fill it. You don't need to outrun it. You just need to recognize why your body reacts before your mind can speak. Not advice, not reassurance. Just the truth behind the panic. That shows up whenever the noise stops.